Security. So why am I disappointed with Secretary Noem? Because we're not going after enough people who did this damage at the expense of running numbers that Stephen Miller wants out of the White House. We just want numbers. We want 1,000 a day, 6,000 a day, 9,000 a day, because numbers matter, right? No, they don't matter. Quality matters, not quantity, quality. And what we've seen is a disaster. Under your leadership, Ms. Noem, a disaster. What we've seen is innocent people getting detained that turn out are American citizens. I could talk about the culture that's been created here with Stephen Miller aiding and abetting. I heard first reports that he was the one that said it was a domestic terrorist situation where 2 people lost their lives in Minneapolis. I've heard that report. Maybe you can refute it. I don't know that we'll have time for you to respond because I'm giving you a performance evaluation here. I'm not looking for a response.
Kristi Noem was falling apart during intense cross-examination at a Senate hearing by both Democratic and Republican senators. Let me show you what went down earlier today at this Senate hearing where Kristi Noem was under oath. First, you had Democratic Senator Whitehouse showing Kristi Noem a photo of the private jet that she and Corey Lewandowski fly around in, which has multiple flat screen TVs and a bed in it. Watch this.
Appreciate that. Could you explain this?
Sir, I'm looking at a picture of an interior, looks like a bedroom.
Of an airplane?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
You're not familiar with that?
These photos are not accurate. If you're referring to the airplanes that the Department of Homeland Security has purchased and are purchasing, we're using them for long-range command and control aircraft that is dictated in statute by Congress for the Department of Homeland Security to have a plane.
Luxury jet with a bedroom in it?
Yeah, we used a 737. I've been on it once, but it is being used by other administration officials, and it is used for command and control flights for the department. The department has found that in purchasing our aircraft, that we will save the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars.
Does it have a bedroom in it?
In fact, we spent $1.442 billion on ICE deportation flights last year.
Does it have a bedroom in it?
I believe it's being refurbished and not having a bedroom in it. So it is being refurbished.
What kind of deportee justifies being flown out of the country in a luxury jet with a bedroom and accommodations like this?
There are aircraft being purchased that will be utilized for executive air travel and for deportations.
Well,
if you remember in the past, we have used jets of this size and this configuration for deportations in the past. If you remember
this configuration, by this configuration, you mean with a bedroom and luxury accommodations like this you've used for deportations. Is that true?
Sir, we have 737s that are being purchased by the department to replace contracts that we have on ICE deportations. That's what they're going to be used for. And in fact, the Coast Guard is the only entity within the Department of Homeland Security that has jets at this point in time. They had 2 G5s that were 20 to 25 years old that are being replaced so that they can continue to serve our Coast Guard and our military for years to come.
About these aircraft. They've been reported as saying, although they don't want to say publicly this, but individuals described as senior administration officials have described these airplane purchases as the world's worst deal and an abuse of federal funds. Can you tell me what the Republicans on this committee who voted for what I call the billionaires bill that gave you the money to buy these jets knew about your plans to acquire luxury jets when they voted for that money?
The dollars for these airplanes was appropriated by Congress. In fact, it's mandated from Congress and rules that you've given us that we need to have a long-range command and control aircraft that will seat up to 17 people in the Department of Homeland Security for national security purposes. We are complying with the law. Those planes are being refurbished and will be utilized for that, and they'll be utilized by members of the administration and other components.
First,
they will also cut our costs, by almost.
Next, you have Democratic Senator Blumenthal cross-examining Kristi Noem if, Corey Lewandowski, who flies around with her and who many suspect is having an affair with her, has decision-making power and approval power over contracts within the Department of Homeland Security. Here, play this clip.
Madam Secretary, does Corey Lewandowski have a role in approving contracts? And if so, what is that role?
His role is a special government employee, and special government employees work for the White House and the administration. There's thousands of them.
Oh, he does have a role.
Senator Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since we're having folks stand up, I would have.
Next, I got to hand it to him. Republican Senator Kennedy from Louisiana did a very good job on his cross-examination. He was very effective as he cross-examined Kristi Noem about the $220 million advertising contract that the taxpayers funded that features Kristi Noem riding around in horses, and ultimately that money was funneled to friends of Kristi Noem. Watch this effective line of cross-examinations. Really good. Here, play this clip.
How do you square that concern for waste, which I share, with the fact that you have spent $220 million running television advertisements that feature you prominently?
Sir, the president tasked me with getting the message out to the country and to other countries where we were seeing the invasion come from, with putting commercials out that told them that if they were in this country illegally, that they needed to leave, or we would detain them and remove them, and they'd not get the chance to come back to America the right way. That has been extremely effective.
Ask you to run these advertisements, is that right?
We had that conversation, yes, before I was put in this position and sworn in and confirmed, and since then as well.
Okay. Did you bid out those service contracts?
Yes, they did. They went out to a competitive bid, and career officials at the department chose who would do those advertising commercials.
And the people that you ended up picking were people who had formerly done your political work back in South Dakota. Is that right?
No, that's not correct, sir.
I think it is.
No, it's not, sir. The individuals who, I believe the careers who they chose were two different media firms. There's been conversation about their subcontractors, but we have no legal authority to look into subcontractors on work like that.
Okay. And you're saying that you're testifying that President Trump approved this ahead of time. Is that my understanding?
We had conversations about making sure that we were telling people.
No, ma'am. I'm asking you, sorry to interrupt, but the president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly.
Did the president know you were going to do this?
Yes.
He did?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And one thing, Senator, I think would be helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
well, they were
overwhelmingly
effective in your name recognition. I mean, I personally just, I mean, to me, it puts the president in a terribly awkward spot, and and I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. It's just hard for me to believe, knowing the president, as I do, that you said, Mr. President, here's some ads I've cut, and I'm going to spend $220 million running them, that he would have agreed to that. I don't think Russ Vogt at OMB would have agreed to that. It's something we have to defend. I'm on the Appropriations Committee. My research shows that you did not bid them out, that you in fact, one of the people you picked, the strategy group, Safe America Media was a company formed 11 days before you picked them, and that the strategy group got most of the money, and the head of that is married to your former spokesperson. Look, we all have friends who are qualified. I'm not quibbling with that. it troubles me. A fifth to a quarter of $1 billion of taxpayer money when we're scratching for every penny and we're fighting over rescission packages. I just can't agree with, Madam Secretary. Are you still running those ads?
No, Senator, I did not have anything to do with picking those contractors. No politicals at the Department of Homeland Security did.
I understand. Are you
Rear
still running
officials
those
followed
ads?
the competitive bid process for
Are you
that.
still running
Everything
those ads?
I think the ads are due to end here in March, I think within a week or two. I'm not sure of the update. The one that is running is focusing on angel families. Have you seen that? It is the one that's talking about this is our why. This is why we work every day.
Okay.
Is for the angel
I've gotta
families
move
and their
on.
victims.
Next, you have Democratic Senator Klobuchar cross-examining Kristi Noem about her calling Alex Pretty and Renee Nicole Good domestic terrorists. And Senator Klobuchar points out just how distressing that was as well, and how traumatic it was to the family and parents of Pretty and Renee Nicole Good. Here, play this clip.
After the killings of Renee Good and Alex Pretty, when I spoke to Alex's parents, they told me that you calling him a domestic terrorist, this was directly from them, the day after he was killed. A nurse in our VA, Alex, one of the most hurtful things they could ever imagine was said by you about their son. Do you have anything you want to say to Alex Pretty's parents?
We were relying in the hours after that incident that was so horrific on information we were getting from the ground from our agents.
I just asked if you had anything you wanted to say to the parents or to the family of Renee Good after you called them domestic terrorists.
I can't even imagine what they have gone through in the loss of their son and the loss of their family members.
But how about specifically calling them domestic terrorists without any evidence of that?
Sir, ma'am, I did not call him a domestic terrorist. I said it appeared to be an incident of.
I think the parents saw it for what it was.
Did you hear Kristi Noem's response there? I did not call him a domestic terrorist. I said it appeared to be an incident of. I mean, these are the most phony, dangerous, despicable people. More cross-examination here by Republican Senator Kennedy. Play this clip.
After the two killings in Minneapolis, and I think there's a lot of video on them, Madam Secretary. I think people can see the video and draw their own conclusions. Are you and your department conducting an investigation of those?
Sir, the investigation is being led by the FBI. HSI was involved. In fact, our HSI agents on the ground.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I got so little time. I believe at the time you said these were acts of domestic terrorism. Is that right?
Sir, in answer to questions at the press conference that afternoon, it was that it appeared to be.
Yeah, but you said these appeared to be acts of domestic terrorism.
And as I've said previously in this hearing, is that
first, Madam Secretary, did you say
we're getting information from a chaotic
reported.
Scene on the
Did you say
ground
that?
and relaying information to the American people.
Okay. Now, again, those videos are public. People can draw their own conclusions. I think it'd be safe to say you got some pushback on that. Mm-hmm. Would that be fair?
Yes, sir.
And you had some criticism. I'm not saying the criticism was accurate or inaccurate. I think you did. What got my attention was that you blamed those statements on Mr. Stephen Miller at the White House. Did you not? No,
sir, I did not. And in fact, where you're seeing that is in a news article of anonymous sources. And anonymous sources say a lot of things, but I've never said that at all.
Well, here's what you said on the record. I'm going to read your words. Quote, everything I've done at the direction of the president and Stephen.
Sir, where did you see me say that at? You read that in
It
a
was
news
reported
article with no sources
You said it on
affiliated
the
to it.
record on January 27th of 2026. Did I
Sir,
read your words accurate?
I enjoy working with the president and with Stephen Miller, and that day we were working to get as much information to the American people as possible. That is what we'll continue to do, and as that happens, we'll go
do
forward.
Do you think it was fair to blame Mr. Miller?
Sir, I did not do that. You're reading from a newspaper article with
Yes, ma'am.
anonymous sources.
Are you denying that you said that?
Sir, I'm not going to speak to that situation that is relayed on anonymous sources that no one has heard me say that.
It was you.
No. Who reported that to that newspaper?
They're quoting you on the record, saying it's Stephen's fault. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Klobuchar.
Here's what Democratic Senator Dick Durbin did during his cross-examination. Let's play it.
About DACA, are you familiar with the program?
Nope.
Do you understand the people that are covered and protected by DACA have to go through a background check, which includes a criminal check? Yes or no?
Yes.
You do? Last week, your agency informed us that last year ICE arrested 261 DACA holders and deported 86 of them. We learned about a DACA recipient who'd lived in this country for decades, was arrested by ICE at her green card appointment. In tears, she hugged her daughter goodbye. She was deported to Mexico within 24 hours. Madam Secretary, why have you deported dozens of DACA holders who had to comply with a criminal background check to be eligible for DACA?
Sir, we follow all laws as applicable to the Department of Homeland Security and how we handle detainment and deportations.
Why did you deport them?
I don't know the details of that specific case you just read, but I'll look into it, sir. But we ensure that we follow the law that applies to our department and who we detain and who we deport back to their home countries.
You clearly violated the law if that is the case.
Yeah, and I thought that Democratic Senator Blumenthal was also very effective here as well. You had Kristi Noem trying to do that Pam Bondi routine at the end where she's like, did you know that in your state, but it really fell flat. And Blumenthal pointed out that with the shooting of Miramar Martinez in Chicago, that all of the ICE and Border Patrol Gestapo were bragging that they had the support of Kristi Noem and El Jefe. They were calling Trump El Jefe. Here, play this clip.
Miramar, by the way, was falsely charged with impeding law enforcement, but the case actually fell apart. The judge dismissed it as being trumped up. He dismissed it with prejudice. And in fact, the agent who shot her, I'm not going to name him, but you know who he is, was quoted on social media the day or so afterward. And he said, quote, I fired 5 rounds and she had 7 holes. Put that in your book, boys. And quote, cool, I'm up for another round of F around and find out. Will you join me in condemning that agent?
Sir, that situation, I don't know the details of, but I will look into that.
I don't know why you can't join me in saying it was wrong to shoot Miramar, almost cause her death, and then brag about it. Wouldn't you agree with me that it was wrong?
Well, sir, the way that you have portrayed it, it appears to be, but let me look into the case so I can speak to the specifics of it.
In fact, apparently, contrary to what you just said, you actually supported the agent who shot Ms. Martinez 5 times. He's quoted as saying, when he was asked, everyone has been supportive, including Chief Bovino, Chief Banks, Secretary Noem, and El Jefe himself, referring presumably to President Trump. Is the agent who shot Ms. Martinez still on the job?
Sir, our law enforcement officers conduct operations every day according to procedures and to training and the experience that they have. When there is
the agent
when there is something that
who
is not
shot
done
Ms.
properly,
Martinez still on the job carrying a gun?
I don't know the details. I will find out and get that information to you.
Would you agree with me that he shouldn't be on the job
I
carrying
will
a gun?
look into this case and get back to you on the details. I'm
I
not
think
familiar
Americans
with it.
would find it absolutely terrifying
Mhm.
that agent is still on the job carrying a gun. And the fact that you can't tell me that you will take him off?
Sir, do you know who Angel Samanago is? Do you recognize that name? This is
I
an
think we're
individual
talking about
that was
an
murdered
egregious
in your
illegality
state
here,
by
a
an illegal
violation
alien,
of rights and trust.
duct taped.
The answers are
And you had Democratic Senator Coons. It was his turn for cross-examination. Watch this.
Steve Bannon, long an advisor to the president, one of his earliest public supporters, recently said that ICE should be deployed at the polls in the next election. Will you rule out the deployment of ICE or CBP to polling places this November?
There are no plans to have ICE officers at our polling locations. And
I'm glad to hear that, but would you rule it out? Would you say it will not happen?
do you plan on illegal aliens voting in our elections, Senator?
I do not. In fact,
then
the
there should be
Heritage
no need to,
Foundation,
unless you plan on illegal
Madam
aliens
Secretary, the
voting.
Heritage Foundation recently concluded that over a 20-year period where they reviewed hundreds of millions, billions of voting cases, they found only a small handful of actual cases of illegals voting. So I'm concerned by your rebuttal, which suggests you may be unfamiliar with 18 U.S.C. Section 592. Are you familiar with this federal statute that relates to sending armed men to polling places?
There are no plans to send any of our law enforcement officers to
But
polling
Madam Secretary,
locations.
you're clear it would
There
be a
have been
federal
illegal
crime
aliens.
for you to do so.
There are illegal aliens that have voted, and it's been proven in the past in certain cases in certain states. We provide a program to states. I think we have 27 different states that utilize our SAVE program now to verify individuals that are eligible to vote in their election.
More from Senator Coons right here. Let's play it.
So let's be clear. Is it your sworn testimony today, Madam Secretary, that training hours have not been reduced for any recruit compared to where they were, say, a year ago?
Senator, our ICE officers are trained when they come on board the department 56 days. We've changed the format of those days. Instead of 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, they now do 6 days a week, 12-hour days. We also give them 28 days of on-the-job training so they can have more hands-on experience with individuals that have served a longer period of time in law enforcement and have that experienced officer supporting them going forward. What I would say about your whistleblower is that your whistleblower came to FLETC, which is the area academy where we train over 130 different federal law enforcement agencies. He came there after we had changed our program and didn't experience how we trained our ICE officers previous to that on those 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. I don't know how he would speak to how ICE used to do that. And this individual was only detailed there for a short period of time, a few months, and was a trial attorney, not an expert
in a number of places around the country have faced protests for how they've been conducting their policing. Do you specifically train your new recruits on how to handle peaceful protesters in the context of the First Amendment and their rights?
Yes, they are trained in that. And they are annually trained and updated with legal guidance, with constitutional provisions, de-escalation techniques, in driving techniques, medical aid, intervening, use of force. All of those are things that our individual officers are trained on. What has
January 22nd,
happened?
you put out a press release that said enforcement and removal operations, ERO training, was 42 days. But on February 23rd, just a month later, the same day that the whistleblower testified, you issued a new press release saying it was 56 days. You seem to be making it up as you go along. Help me understand how you square those quite different numbers in terms of the total number of training days.
Our training for ICE officers is at 56 days with 28 days of on-the-job experience that they get as well. That continues their training, and their specialized training is above and beyond that as well. And we're grateful for those individuals, many of those individuals that have come and joined ICE. We had over 220,000 individuals apply to become ICE officers. We've hired approximately 12,000 of those, and many of those had previous law enforcement experience when they came to serve with us.
Last question, Madam Secretary, about
And more from Senator Coons right here.
tactics. Does DHS, Madam Secretary, operate on any quotas or numerical targets for immigration arrests every day?
No, Senator, we do not. We do targeted law enforcement operations going after those worst of the worst criminals that are here illegally.
I would certainly prefer it if you did targeted operations against the worst of the worst. But just last year, Stephen Miller, who's the president's Homeland Security Advisor and Deputy Chief of Staff, went on Fox News and said, we're setting a goal, a minimum of 3,000 arrests for ICE every day. And President Trump is going to keep pushing to get that number higher and higher. He's the Deputy Chief of Staff and Homeland Security Advisor, and he oversees immigration policy for the president. What's your response to his public quote?
Sir, there is no quotas at the Department of Homeland Security. When we do law enforcement operations, we do them on targeted enforcement, getting public safety threats off of our streets and out of our communities to protect the American people.
Thank you. And you agree that setting quotas would actually put improper pressure on law enforcement to conduct themselves in ways that might not be in the best interest of their safety or the public.
Senator, we don't have any quotas on our law enforcement
Have you
operations.
ever issued any guidance rejecting the use of numerical targets or quotas?
I usually put out notices on things that are impacting our operations. There's been no discussion or requirement on numerical quota targets. Therefore, there would be no need to reject them in a memo unless I feared that they were being implemented, which they're
here's
not.
why I think there might be real value in your putting out a memo saying, I reject any quotas. It's not just what Stephen Miller said last May. He's reportedly, and I have many press accounts of this I can submit for the record, making conference calls, berating agency officials, threatening to fire them, threatening to fire the leadership of field offices that are in the bottom 10% of arrest numbers. I would suggest that it's this constant drive for higher numbers that has been behind a lot of what we've been seeing in terms of the failure to actually focus on the worst of the worst and targeted enforcement, and to instead do things like roving patrols and profiling. Let's move on.
Then you had more from Senator Dick Durbin. Very effective cross-examination. Let's play it.
How does taking a father from a child dying of cancer qualify? Where would that be? Is that a violent crime?
I don't know what you're speaking or
I'll tell you
referencing
exactly
to.
what I'm speaking of. Ruben Torres, 2 weeks ago, buried his daughter Ophelia. When he was arrested at the Home Depot in Norridge, Illinois, he said to those who, your agents, please let me go home. My daughter is dying of cancer. I would like to be with her in her last days of her life. They said no. They arrested him and deported him for 2 weeks. Finally, he returned for a court hearing. His daughter lived to see that hearing where the court said he was treated unfairly by your agency, and she died 3 days later. I was at her memorial service. Is that really necessary? Was he a violent criminal?
Sir, we enforce the law. The laws that are passed by this body and signed into statute on the process for individuals that are in this country illegally, that have final removal orders, and the process given in immigration law. We continue to follow that. And if you don't like the law, I would suggest you change the law. But that is what we do every single day, is go out there.
We tried to change it with comprehensive immigration reform, and it was stopped by the Republican House of Representatives.
Our job at the department is to follow the law and make sure that we are a nation of laws, because a nation that doesn't follow the law is no nation at all.
I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Senator. Now contrast that to MAGA Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. He was not effective. He's obviously a Trump sycophant. He's been beclowning himself since he's been in the Senate. He's the one who's been going on, talking about regime change in Iran. And here he is, just a total clown, just so you can see the clownish behavior of this Republican. Let's play it.
But you can't deny that this was a threat, and an essential growing threat to the United States. And you want to say he's playing politics, and you get the politics behind it, Mr. Peters? You guys are playing politics. You guys are the ones that are grandstanding. The president's doing his job as commander-in-chief. And I think at one time or next, we should say thank you. Thank you for being a strong leader. But there's no way in God's green earth you guys can ever give the president, at least President Trump, any credit. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sir, I'm out. I still got 49 seconds.
And then finally, you have more from Senator Blumenthal. Again, very effective throughout this hearing. Play this clip.
citizenship. Wouldn't you agree with me that no U.S. citizen simply working lawfully should be arrested?
In law enforcement operations across the country, there are times when U.S.
It's a
citizens
simple yes or
may
no.
be arrested or detained until
Would
their
you
identity
agree
is
with me,
confirmed
Madam
and that they
Secretary,
haven't
that
committed a
U.S.
crime.
citizens should not be arrested when they are obeying the law, they have no criminal record, and they are engaged in a lawful activity?
Sir, in situations where law enforcement, regardless of the agency across the country, when there is probable
Let me
cause,
tell
an
you about
individual
Javier
may
Ramirez. Do you know what your agents did to Javier Ramirez? He was on his own private property when he was assaulted by masked agents, his own property. Without a warrant, without consent, they said, get him. He's Mexican. He was violently slammed into the ground while being handcuffed and taken into custody, despite telling officers that he is a United States citizen and even showing them his passport. And when he was asked what he was being arrested for, you know what they said? We don't know. Wouldn't you agree that targeting someone just because he is or looks like he is Mexican when he is a United States citizen is wrong?
Senator, we do not target people based on their race or ethnicity. We do targeted operations based on criminal backgrounds and information that we have.
Madam Secretary, Javier was detained for over 4 days. He was denied medicine that he needed for severe diabetes. He lost consciousness. He had severe hypoglycemia. Wouldn't you agree with me that medical treatment should have been provided to him?
Senator,
denied.
Medical treatment is provided to individuals in our processing and detention centers. Within 12 hours, they have a medical examination. We get them the prescriptions and medication that they need. They also have a full evaluation.
Will you commit to take action and to look into why he was denied medical treatment?
Yes, I will look into that case specifically for you, Senator.
Marimar Martinez is with us today as well. She's standing right behind you. She was on her way to donate clothing at her church when she came across an unmarked car. The agents sideswiped her car. 3 masked agents in camouflage stormed out, and one of them pulled out his gun and fired at her moving vehicle, hitting her 5 times. She almost bled to death.
Well, there you have it, folks. Let me know what y'all think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching that.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.